Hello there, good morning, and welcome to my little arty corner, my little arty corner here on YouTube. Thank you for joining me, and I really do hope that you enjoy what you see and you give drawing or drawing along with me a go. But please do it in your own way as well. Nobody draws exactly the same, but my aim here is always to help and to encourage, hopefully to inspire people to pick up pen and paper and a pencil and no other complicated tools unless you wish to, and just draw for pleasure, for no other outcome at all. So that's my aims. I was a teacher, science teacher for 28 years, but I did teach some art in that time as well, and I loved teaching both mostly. There's a long story why I left teaching, but I'm not going to go into that here and now. But I would just like to say thank you so much for joining me here today, once again, and thank you so much to those of you who have subscribed to my channel. It means an awful lot. If you enjoy what you see here and you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It doesn't cost you anything, just a click of a button, and we're good to go. Well, we're good to go whether you subscribe or not, but if you do, it really does mean a lot, because it sort of means that my videos will be shared with others who would like them in the way you do. So thank you. And thumbs up are great as well for that. So thank you very much. Okie dokes. What you can see in front of you are two things. Well, a couple of things, because you can see something peeking out here. This one here is a drawing that I'm working on. I wasn't very well yesterday. I had a really rough night on Sunday with nausea and overly heated hot sweats and chills and things. So I don't know what had happened, whether it was just something to do with stress, more than likely. But I had a very quiet day yesterday. But yesterday evening I started to perk up, and I remembered I had some coloured papers. And these are, I've got 3 colours because I haven't got the blue one yet, and I want to get the blue one. I think there's also a putty pinky colour one as well. But I've got, this is sand, this is clay, and this one is moss. And they're by Fabriano, and it's called toned paper. Now, I haven't found these, I don't think I found them on Amazon in the UK. I have to go to an art supplies shop for them. But what is lovely, you might be able to see here, is they are 15% cotton, and they're designed for dry techniques. So they do okay with watercolour or water-based things in very little water. They do okay. I've used them like that, but they're not designed for lots of water and lots of wet. So this is the moss one, and in my infinite wisdom with this, I can see that I'd planned sort of like, I'll put these fancy corners on, and then I go and draw a rectangle inside that is all skew whiff to them. So it looks like the paper's wonky, but it's not a problem. It is just testing things out. So I've drawn this with I actually used a Tombow Fudanasuki, not this one. This is one of the coloured ones, but a hard-tipped one. And then I used some white charcoal for the highlights, and this was the graphite pencil I picked up, which is a Prismacolor Ebony, which are very black. Much blacker than ordinary graphite pencils. If you hear me turning around, that's because I am. In the background here, this is my drawing board. And while I wasn't feeling too well yesterday, I made a mark on it, and I thought, oh, let's see where this goes. And this is what happens. So my intention is to cover the whole of it and then seal it with a really tough clear spray varnish. And then I can do something similar on the other side, and I can have a double-sided drawing board, which I rather like. So yes, inspired by Maria Thomas from the Zentangle videos, and I make no apologies for that, because, well, you know, inspiration is important, and that's why I hope I can bring here. So these are the actual 3 colours. So this is clay, moss, sand. Can't remember what the blue one is called, and I think there is a pinky grey one, but I could be wrong. But I am going to go and have a look because, you know, paper, what can I say? I get through tons of it. no, it's not too bad. It's not so difficult to see, is it, really, on this background? But we'll cope, I'm sure. In fact, I think I may, while I'm at it, because this originally, I think, if I remember rightly, is, it's a little bit less than 10 centimetres wide, and it is about 21 centimetres long, so it's about 8 inches long and about just a little bit less than 4 inches wide. So I'm just going to measure the width again. Wrong way, Angela, come on. Yeah, it's 9.8, so about there. I'll make sure the other side's the same kind of side, and then I've got 2 nice square tiles out of it and a little bit of scrap paper, which is fine. Should have thought about this before I started filming, but we're talking me here, so you know. And then I'm just going to round the corners with this corner rounding tool, which is very satisfying once I tap those out. Works lovely. Strange one when the paper's got cotton in it, because it doesn't quite cut it quite as neatly in some directions as others, or it doesn't feel that it does. It does, but you can feel the resistance because of the way the fibres are going. So there's the little bits of the corners. Pretty corner rounding. I'll pop one off to one side. I'm going to use my Tombow today, and I don't know what I'm going to do. This is the fun thing this morning, is that I have no idea. Oh, I've done a very good job on that corner. It's all a bit wonky. I wonder if I put it in, can I? Oops, let's try it that way, and let's see if we can. I think that made it a little bit better. Not much, but okay. So I think I'm going to start somewhere here, because one of the patterns that appeared on my drawing board is one I haven't drawn for a while, and I did it in an unusual way, and it's Fengle, and I rather like Fengle. Now I've got to remember how it works. Not that it matters too much, but I think I'm going to go off and round, and I'm just going to do this. I'm not worried about whether these are consistent in length or even the way they curl over at the end, because it doesn't really matter, as it will create a lovely organic asymmetric Fengle. And talking of asymmetry, there's a heck of an asymmetry going on. So these are, I've done them as backward, no, they are backward S's. But if you prefer to do them as forward S's, that's fine. It's just the way that I work. Now, I have done Fengle in 2 ways. One where I take lines going this way, and others where I take them in the more traditional Zentangle one of going the other way. But before I Fengle, I'm going to put an aura around these. I'm not quite sure why, but it feels the right thing to do, and sometimes you just have to go with your instincts. It won't affect Fengle as it is at the end at all. It'll work out exactly the same way. It will just look a little bit different with a little bit more detail on it. Oh, okay. Ah, that's because it didn't come back to this one. That's why it felt a bit odd, because there's a big distance here. It's almost like I could fit another one in, but I'm not going to. So I'm going around the ends and back like this. Trying to keep it about the same distance, but if it's not, you know, the distance between the line I'm drawing and the line I'm not drawing, but if it's not, then it's all going to be fine and well anyway. Because in the grand scheme of things, unless somebody comes along who is particularly fussy about such things and goes up and goes, oh, you're a fraction of a millimetre out here, then nobody's going to notice. and it'll just get lost in the totality of the pattern. So as I said, I do a kind of reverse fengle, which I quite like, which goes this way. And I might do another small one down there. But fengle traditionally goes back around and sort of up here. So I'm going to draw along this line. I'm going to start to, and I'm going to join them like this. So again, it's another S shape that starts here and goes that way. So, don't know what's on my nail. So I'm going to do the same here, where I'm going to trace around this line, I'm going to lift off, and I'm going to go back around here and get it to join. That one's a bit more clumsy in terms of joining, but I'm fine about that. I'm just going to go and round little corners off as I go. So again, I'm going to go around this one, I'm going to take off. Oh, how am I going to join this one? I'm going to do exactly the same thing, except I'm going to make it join here in a slightly different way. And I'm fine with that. This is where you sort of like let the lines almost talk to you. It's because everything's drawn freehand and it's not exactly the same, you do have to think as you work. Sometimes you have to stop and think, oh, how can I make this join? And just don't overthink it, because at the end of it all, this will actually work out perfectly fine. Fengle was a pattern that I loved, but I just could not get it to work for me. And it was only when I was doing, I think it was Inktober last year, because I did the Inktober Tangle Pattern Challenge, I think it was, by 7F5R that they found on Facebook. And one of the patterns was fengles, so I was doing pattern explorations rather than, no surprise there, rather than drawing entire designs and pages. Instead, I was filling a page, an A5 page in the sketchbook, with lots of variations of a particular pattern. And I really loved doing that. When Fragments for Your Imagination came around in January, I did the same kind of thing, but for pattern fragments. Love it. So I carry on with that. Although from time to time I dig and delve into things and do different things. I can see patchy bits over here. So, okay, so here we've got a kind of triangular shape here. And I could aura it inside, which would be quite nice, or I could create a shape here that comes as if it's underneath here. I think that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to turn my tile, and I'm going to go from the same kind of side. If you have a look, we've got this bit coming out, and where this comes out, that's where I'm going to take my triangle from. So here, up there, and down. I'll come back and do corner roundings again. So here's that side I want to go from. So we're going to aura, up, and down. And I'm also going to aura here, up. Just adjust my paper so I can draw that one more easily. And then this one, which has a slightly different shape, but that's fine. Fengles do. So I've got those in. So corner rounding at the bottom here and at the top. Say corner rounding, it's a bit like adding a little bit of weight to the bottoms so they feel that they've attached. Or I just love doing that. I always have done since before I found Zentangle. This was something I did in my drawings an awful lot. Still do. no matter what kind of drawing I'm doing, whether it's Zentangle inspired, it's more abstracty, even my whimsical colouring book style gets things like this put in. It just helps with that feeling of structure, I think. It's almost like what you'd have to do if you had to solder the lead for stained glass windows, or when somebody's creating wrought iron work. Right, these bottom ones, they look a bit odd when they don't flare out in both directions, so I'm just going to go back and have them flaring out a little bit in both directions here. Just, I don't know, just makes it feel better. There we go. And I am going to do another aura inside here. Just to emphasize this. And then I've got these lovely triangular shapes to work with, and I do have a bit of a thing about triangles these days, as in they seem to appear an awful lot. Okay, I'm just going to add some weight to the bottom and to the tip again. Try not to go outside the lines, Angela. Just keep it neat. There's no hope today. Perhaps it'll help if I put my arm more comfortably, the one that's holding the paper still. That there was a bit icky looking, so I'm just going to create something a little less icky there. Don't forget to round the top point of the triangle. That's what I do. Of course, you don't have to do this. You can choose not to. It's going to be your drawing should you choose to follow along, and that's perfectly fine. Now, normally I'd do something like stripes in here, but I think today I'm going to put more or less in the centre of this triangle. It doesn't have to be exact, because we're hand drawing this, but I'm putting a larger circle with a smaller black dot in the middle. I like this kind of way of putting holders in for lines. And then, okay, I'm going to draw lines that are like this. I'm actually starting here and I'm going in an anti-clockwise direction, so it makes, well, it's not a G, is it? It's almost like a P, letter P. So around that way and then that way. So we'll go here and we're making the lines go in the same direction. So for me it's up and over, and we're going from the tops each direction. So I'm going to stop rotating this now because I've got the feel of how these lines move. She says, I just need to rotate it here so my hand can move more comfortably, that's all. But if I stop rotating, then I've got to remember which way am I going, that way. And then that way. No, I've done that one completely backwards to the others. It doesn't matter, it's not really going to make any difference whatsoever, I don't think. Just tidy that up a bit. And then what I'm going to do here is, remember those little fold overs that I had in the Fengles? I'm going to do that from the outside edges of the triangle up to the centre. That's the easiest way to work it out, is we're going to go from the outside edge of that in a triangle. So here's the triangle that I'm working with. So the outside edge here, I'll do this outside edge as well. This outside edge. And I'm auraing, Zentangle term, these lines. And I'm going to do the same here, where I'm just going to aura this one. Like so. And then it's these that I'm going to add some lines to now then. I have got this brown Fudenisuki from Tombow. It's not the same kind of brown as are in the microns, but it's a nice enough brown. It's not a dark brown or a dull brown like the sepia in microns would be. Or in the actual, the pens I mostly use, which are the Uniball pins. And I'm using these because they're on my desk. I've actually got a red one of these out as well. That could have been quite nice. So I'm starting at the point of this triangle that I've just created, the point that's closest to the centre. So I've got a corner here and a corner there. That one's closest to the centre, and I'm just drawing aura lines in that radiate back towards the centre. But repeat this way, and I did want to add some weight to the bottom of them, which I can do easy enough with a Fudenisuki because the nibs are flexible, but I haven't done that with all of them. So it doesn't matter too much. I may go back and add some weight. It's harder for me to do the weight from heavy to light. I prefer to do it light to heavy, heavy hand. There we go. Don't think it's going to matter too much, but that's just added some colour in here. These are a bit far apart. Just going to go back and add lines in between. Is there anywhere else where that would be beneficial? I think here might be, in an odd couple of cases. Here perhaps would be too. And so that's my Fengle. I'm going to come back and add stuff to this, but first I want to draw the reverse Fengle. What I call reverse is the variation that I particularly like. So I really thought this through. So I'm going to have one Fengle behind the other. I've got a bigger centre as well, but that matters not. Okay, so I'm going to create my shooting off lines in exactly the same way. Making sure that I have them going in the same kind of direction all the way round. So it's easiest if I do this thing where I rotate. And there I've got two hidden behind here, which is fine. I'm going to aura all the way around this one this time because they don't really have that distinct curve on them. Well, some do, but just to do it a little bit differently, because I trust this is going to turn out well no matter what I do. Well, apart from there, but, you know. I don't know about you, but when I'm drawing auras and lines, I don't actually look where my pen nib is. I look ahead of it so I can see where I've got to put it, where it's going to go. Now, for this Fengle, if you remember, we took lines from the top and went in this direction. I'm going to do it in the reverse direction, is it? Does that make a difference? I don't think it does, actually. Yes, it does, because I'm going to go just like this. So it's just a curved line. I can kick it up at the bottom if I like. And then here it's going to go like that. So yeah, so here the lines are curving upwards instead of curving downwards. There's one here that curves down a little bit. And it just gives a different feel to Fengle. So I'm going to do, I could do the lines, because in this one I had them coming this way, but here I'm going to have them going in the other direction. So they're going to, that's right, aura towards the top corner. So we're not going to see that one. Here it's going to go up there and then come back this way. And here we're going to go this way and come back this way. So the shapes are a bit different and the direction in which these points are going is a bit different. So I'm going to do the same as I did with the first one. You get a more rounded shaped Fengle this way. Yeah. Which is quite nice. And for this one I'm going to do something a little bit different. Where's that brown again? It's over here. Because instead of having the central parts, I'm going to aura this, or create these lines in here. So it looks a bit more seed pod-like. I prefer to start at the middle, but you can start at one side if you wish. I find it easier if I start somewhere in the middle because I can set the curves of the lines up by drawing one of those rice shapes, as they call it. Like so. And then use those as the way of bending my lines outwards. Where these Tombow pens, you can get very fine lines if you've got a very light hand, which I don't tend to have. Actually, that's not too bad. They're not as fine as the O1s that they prefer to use in Zentangle. And I do prefer a thicker line, a bolder line. So I've got that as a Fengle. I've got some space up here. So I think rather than putting Fengle here, I think we need to have something that grows out of here. So let's create a shape that looks a bit like a stem. So I'm just putting a couple of little lines here that have got some weight at the bottom, perhaps a couple of dots coming out of that one. I'm going to cap that with a C. And then I think what would be nice here is I've got pointy bits here, so I'm going to drawing Pokeleaf, and I am going to put a little furl on it there. So this will look like it is folding upwards, and to add to that, I'm just going to add some lines here, like so. And I'm going to do this in a lot of places, I think, to begin with. So I'm going to have very sturdy stems for my poke leaves today. And we're going to have them being quite bold because I think they need to be, and I'm going to put a furl on one side, and I'm also going to add some line hatching, cross hatching here, just to add some shadow so it looks like that leaf is bending over. And if you mirror the shape of the line, that increases that illusion as well. Okay, so how about if I have one growing here perhaps? Can't see where the bottom of this root goes, but I can live with that. And again, we'll have this beautiful heart-shaped leaf. So I am trying to make this side narrower than this side, so it would make some kind of logical sense for this edge of the leaf to be curled over. And I am breaking this line up a little bit. Okay. So I want another one coming out perhaps here. And here it might not be able to see the heart shape of it on this side, but we can on the other side, and that's the side I'm going to put the furled bit, the curled over part of the leaf. Like so. And then I think here, let me see if I can get one in here. Well, I will get one in here. No doubt about that. I could curl this one over just for some variety perhaps, and just to have one eccentric quirky leaf here. And because we're following the shape of, well, I'm doing it with this top curl, this top edge rather than the other one, it means these lines won't meet up, they're distinctly different. So that's really quite nice. I like that as it's going. And then perhaps we'll add a cheeky mooka or two perhaps. In places, just to, which way would I like my mooka to go? I think I'm going to go up this way. Like that. I'm going to add some ink in that little space there just around it. And then I can add some other mookas coming off these spaces just to fill these gaps in up towards the edge of my tile. Like so. And we can have one that comes all the way off up here perhaps. Super big one. You'll be familiar with me doing these, I'm sure. Now today I'm going to have to get my sketches done for the cover of my next colouring book. So I'm so glad I'm feeling so much better today. I've got no idea what made me feel so yucky Sunday night and yesterday. I think it was, as they say, stress or illness. I ended up back in bed for much of the day. go. And perhaps I'll have some that go, because that looks, those two just look a little bit uneven to me. That's a bit better. And then can I sneak one in here? I think so. Let's have a baby one. Just in there. That'll work fine. I'm just stopping and having a quick look to see whether there's anywhere else that would benefit, and perhaps here would. I have one tucked behind, and I'm trying to see if I can work one in here elegantly. I think I can if I have the root sort of, or the stem sort of disappearing behind. And then I can add another one here. So I've nested them together, which looks okay. That works. Mooka is such an adaptable pattern in its way. It's able to adapt its shape and size, as it is a growing thing. Perhaps just one here. And I was going to say, I think I'm going to call that done. I'm not. I'm going to pop one in here. It just fits in nicely there. And now you've got that one on its own. I think they need to be in at least pairs a lot of the time, 3 if I can. And then I've got a perfect space for a couple here. Just when you think you've finished and you realise you haven't. Happens to me all the time, doesn't it? How many times have I said at the end of the video, all my long-term subscribers, I've done now, hang on, I'm just going to go back and do that. So we've got those there, and I think space here for one, and I think it could go around the leaf there. That's quite nice, and perhaps one more here, which will come back there. That works quite nicely. And then I think this one could have another one just there as well. I'm going to have to colour all of that in now because I started out. So I think that will do. If I add any more mookas, I will do it off camera. Now my fengles are looking all over, you know, oh, look at that. I forgot to put the non-slip mat underneath this. So to bring my fengles out from each other, I am going to start by adding some shadow underneath where they overlap, because that's my first job, is to make sure my fengles are well separated from each other. I have got a freshly cleaned paper stump here because I'm completely out of tortillons. But these are exactly the same kind of thing. So here I'm just adding that shadow underneath. And this paper is really lovely because it's got enough tooth on to accept this, and it also stops it from spreading too far. So that's started now to lift one from the other. I am going to put some shadow around these central bobbles. My problem is though that my central bobbles radiate out as well, don't they? So we'll see how that goes. So I'm just working in close to this and then out a bit, so we've got that kind of shadow going on there. Okay, I'm also going to add some shadow to the ends of all of these lines where we've got auras going on for the Fengle to start with. So, oops, yeah, that's fine. So it's going around and putting these in. I'll worry about the, well, it's a kind of triply variation, isn't it, in the triangular bits here. So let me just have a look here. Let's just add some shadows here, shade. I'm trying to keep one end clean, so I've got the other end for the white charcoal. And I will have a white gel pen to hand somewhere, because I will want to use that really bright whiteness we can get. There we go. So there's plenty of shadow towards the middle and around the edges where these overlap as well. So that's starting to bring this one to life a bit with dimension. Just a bit. Okay, we're going to do the same here. So along these edges where the lines overlap here and here and here. Very Valley's Wenglish. Or just put it be here, will you? Will you? Be here. Not be there, be here. So that's beginning to look a bit more dimensional. I'm going around the first Fengle, and where these tips of the triangles are, I'm just adding a bit of the graphite pencil here, and I am just easing that in a bit just to add a bit of shadow around these areas. And the other place I think I want to add some shadow is around these little balls here, so I'm just going to colour over them rather than try to keep them vaguely white, and then I can just work it in and smudge it out a bit. So that's starting to add some dimension there. I will come back to the other one in a moment, because I do just want to start to add some chalk in here, just to start adding some highlights. I may not finish this in this video particularly, but we'll see how we go, because I'll give you a point. Well, certainly with the leaves, I'm definitely going to do just one or two of those, show how I'm going to add shadow, and then I'll complete this off camera, because the ideas are pretty much the same, but I'd like to get one Fengle done if I can. It's going to take a bit of work, this one, because the charcoal, this white charcoal, is dulling down the black lines. So I'm going to want to go over them with fresh ink at some point. Just blowing the loose stuff away. So that automatically is starting to bring some lovely highlights in here, and I'm also going to put some highlights along these sections, a bit further down as well than I had. And I think going down these sections as well, I think I just need to add a little bit more in than I have done. And I'm going to start adding some to the outside of this triangle, perhaps over there. I've made some of this areas on the triangle just a little bit on the dark side, but I think it'll work out fine because the charcoal will blend with graphite. I've got some there, be fine. And will lighten things up considerably. This is why I like working on coloured paper for this purpose, is that it gives you that monochrome coloured background, the mid-tone background, and all you need to do is to add highlight and shadow, and it's super easy to do on this. Not so easy to do with coloured pens and so on, but it does work. So that's beginning to look quite dimensional. Okay, these triangles here, I am going to go around the outside edge of them. So if I do one, we'll see where we're going with that. This pen is, well, this pencil is really quite dark. I like that. And it's also not, oh, it is, it's still got some shine on it, but it's nowhere near as shiny as others would be. So I'm going to put some white there. And of course, I think I've used the white end for some graphite just now, but it'll be fine here. So I'm just adding some highlights there. So that's beginning to make these lift up. So if I go back and do this here, because this is so dark, this pencil, I don't need a lot for it to spread quite a distance as well. Don't get me wrong, it's blooming lovely. But I need a point on my paper stump here that is perhaps a little bit finer or sharper, so I think I'm going to be on the hunt for tortillons later. A supply of them. Because they do have finer edges, so you can make your own. So I may spend some time looking at how to do that. It's not like I don't have tons of different kinds of paper here. So I am adding shadow to the tips of the brown sections here. Not shadow, it's the other one. It's the highlight I'm adding there, which will also go over some of the shade, the grey, black, and just starts to bring a highlight in there, which is quite nice. And then I think I might just add a bit more highlight around these triangular tops, the tips of the triangular sections. Because that kind of makes some kind of sense. I'm using the right end. Always check which one you're using. Here, missed that one. So I'll just do that one now. That's okay. So that's beginning to look all right, I think. What do you think? Dimensional? Possibly. Okay, for the poke roots, this one I'm going to do in a similar way, except I think here I'm going to put the highlight across the middle of these, like so, in a kind of bent, like, you know, you'd have it in this kind of shape, wouldn't you, in an arc rather than anything else. And then some over here as well. I'm going to put some shadow at the bottom and at the tip. probably towards the sides if I can, but I don't think I can. I think I'll just have to leave them as they are. So let me start with the shadows first, because I know they're going to spread a bit further than I want them to. I haven't done the bottom here. And then I can put the highlights in. And just like so. Again, if I choose to want to put the brown lines in again, I can. Okay, so, oops, wrong one. I wanted to put some white around here. I'm also going to put some white in these sections, there and there, because I think these will be the highlighted areas. So some down there. So let me just do that quickly. Like so, and we've got that lovely highlight there, but then we need to counter that with some shadow. So I'm going to put shadows already on one side but not on the top edge here, so let's just put some shading in here just to have this bending downwards and underneath this part, which then is going to have highlight on it towards the top. There's only 3 of these sticking out, so only 3 of them I need to worry about. And there's going to be some of the mid-tone left in the centre, which is fine because we could do with some of that colour showing, and I haven't done that little bit there, which is fine. So that's that Fengle, those Fengles done. Okay, I'm going to do one of the poke leaves. For this, I'm going to start with I say I'm going to do one, I might end up doing them all, because once you start one, you might as well do the same thing to them all. So I'm going to put some shadow right along the edge, but I'm also going to put it on the lower edge and this top edge as well. And I'm looking where things would overlap so that I can try to do something, make sure that I get shadow underneath the overlaps. So I'm going to do this here and here. So it does add a lovely kind of shadowiness here, perhaps a little bit along the lower that edge there as well. There's enough on my paper stump to actually do that. Then I am going to go and add some highlight where I've got the broken lines, because this would catch, you know, it's going to be curled over, so it would have a little bit of a highlight. So it's important to put that little highlight in to help with that illusion of it being curled. Yeah, that works, doesn't it? Then under here, we're going to put plenty of shadow underneath where the leaves curl over, and also where they overlap. And I'm going to add that as well around the bottom on either side of the stem, like so, and round the edges, because I think my edges are going to be in shadow. So all the way around the stem and around the edges. But we really want a fair amount underneath this furl. We can do that as we spread the graphite out, I think. Forget where these overlap, you're going to need a thicker area of shadow, which we can do either with the graphite, you know, putting the graphite down first. Oh, darn it. You can see what I've done, can't you? So I'm going to use the graphite to mostly fill, well, looks like I'm going to end up filling the whole space here and then putting a highlight on the top. Note to self, must find a supply of just tortillons. I do wreck them, like I do everything that's got a nib or a point on it, unless it's made of metal, and even then I've got the, you know, the propensity or the ability to wreck even those. So I've got so much graphite here, it's just ridiculous. It'll be all right. Because there's two things I can do. One is I can use the white to bring this out, or I could use a eraser to take some of this. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use the white charcoal to put white where I want these to be much brighter. And I'm going to have a sort of like a lighter grey when I blend these in. But that's a variant then on the background. Okay, I need to be careful here. As in, I'm going to end up with two grey tortillons or two graphite ones. But it's fine, it's what it is. So they're much whiter, and perhaps I can even add a bit more whiteness in places just to add that in. Like so. Try not to blend it too much, just trying to smooth the texture out, but still leave the highlights. So we've got those there, which are very, very stone looking. And the mookas, oh, the stems, we're going to have shadow at the bottom, at the top and down one side. So that's going to be challenging, given the size of my paper stump. Okay, let's have a quick look. Have I got something finer here that I could use? I probably have somewhere. Oh, look at that. I think this counts as fine. Paint a hold. And there's the stems with some shading on them, and I can pop some highlight on the side just like that. I'm just going to use my finger just to rub that in a little bit, and in fact I can most probably do the same for these, just to get a bit more white in, and these ones too. Hindsight, maybe I'd have been better off just doing highlights on this with the tiniest bit of shadow, but it is what it is and it'll do for now. The mookas, I'm going to put shadow around the bottom bit here in the stem, and I'll use this one again See how such a tiny amount of graphite goes such a long way from this one. And then I'm just going to put a nice big one here, blend it in. Perhaps a little bit down the stem. So I'm starting to get some mooka going on. Now if you have chalk pastels, which I don't now, I don't, and I'm not likely to get them again, then a brown chalk pastel would be lovely for all of this instead of the graphite. But, so you can see what's beginning to happen here. So I don't know what way round I want this to go. It's not quite finished, but again I'm going to work on this while I am processing and uploading the video. I'm going to find the mat, that means I don't push everything every way. I am still going to put my initials on here, and this seems like a really good place. So I'm going to add a little bead, and I'm going to put my initials in here at a jaunty angle, and I am just going to make sure that I just retouch some of these as well. It's a reminder that we need to do that, just to bring the black lines back out. So it's going to take a while to retrace all of these as well. But it does make a difference, and it is worth doing. So it's all part and parcel of the process, and it's getting used to that idea that it's not you draw the lines and they're done. It's sometimes you've got to go back and go over them, especially if you've used white chalk. And even the graphite can dull the black down. Do you see what I did to this? I left the centre open because I quite like that lighter grey shade that we've got from the white charcoal, so I'm going to leave that as if it's deliberately meant to be there. This does take time to do neatly, to follow the lines, but hopefully you can see the difference this is making in bringing out those lines and crisping them back up. If you do make them a bit thicker, if you do miss the line, it's no big thing. You just make it part and parcel of what it's meant to be. So there we go. One tile with various pens and a couple of pencils, and all's good to go. So I'm going to say thank you ever so much for joining me here today and for sticking with me. And I hope you give this kind of thing a go. And if you haven't got coloured paper, whatever, you can see the mess I've made of this. I wish I hadn't textured it with all of the white charcoal and graphite, but there we are, it is what it is. But I can also see over here where I've retraced the lines, where it looks a lot better. And on camera it always picks things up. I mean, these colours here are being washed out by reflection. So please look after yourselves, take care of yourselves, and find time to be creative. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye for now. Bye.